Everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a nice small slate, 5 games. Not a ton of injuries today, which is nice, so we got a little bonus from that perspective. I think the slate's actually pretty solid. Obviously, there's a couple injuries on basically every team, but it's not that bad. Only one guy or so out on most teams, and obviously those guys are giving us a lot of good options. I also think the pricing today is rather good, especially on DraftKings. Fanduel is not as ideal, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And I'm also going to add a bonus feature today. I'm going to put my game picks for all the games today at the end of the video. I've had a few people request me to do that, so I'm going to start doing that some. Let me know what you think about that. So with that said, let's get into the slate itself. So we have these 5 games: Sacramento, Philadelphia, Golden State, Milwaukee, Phoenix, Houston, the Pelicans against the Jazz, and Boston versus the Lakers. So let's get into the injury report. For the Kings, Fox is questionable. For the 76ers, Maxey is out. For the Warriors, Wiggins is out. For the Bucks, Holiday is questionable. For the Suns, Booker is out and Cam Johnson is out. For the Rockets, Tate is out. For the Pelicans, Ingram is out. For the Jazz, Sexton is out. And for the Celtics, Robert Williams is questionable and Horford is out. And for the Lakers, LeBron and Davis are both probable. Obviously, both those guys are likely to play. So let's go ahead and get into the players I do like today. As you can see here on DraftKings, I have Chris Paul, Damian Lee, DeAndre Ayton, and then Jordan Poole in my lineup already. These are my core plays today. Now, Chris Paul, without Booker, he's going to have a bigger role in this offense, and obviously he has big-time potential. Not only that, but his price is way down from what it's been at its peak. He had some off games coming back from injury, but I expect him to bounce back today, especially in a plus matchup where he's going to have a lot of opportunity with Booker out. Damian Lee, surprisingly cheap based on his production, despite the fact that his minutes are typically pretty all over the place, but he should get an opportunity to start today with Booker out, or at least get more minutes off the bench. And typically this season, he's been pretty solid. I mean, even if Booker was playing, he wouldn't be the worst look the way he's been playing the last few games at this price point. So with Booker out, he's definitely a top tier option on the slate on on DraftKings. His price on FanDuel is quite a bit more expensive. For DeAndre Ayton, his price point is way too cheap for what he's been doing lately, and with Booker out, he should get more opportunity. Obviously, this matchup is not super ideal for him, and the last time he played them, he only had 20 fantasy points and he only had 6 rebounds. But I look for him to get more involved today simply because he's going to have to be more involved with Booker out. And then Jordan Poole, with Wiggins out, he's been starting last couple games, and he's been playing really well, pretty much meeting our expectation at this price point. Obviously, he has some upside in this matchup, and if anybody else ends up being out with him starting, he'll be a lock in this slate. So those are my core plays today. Then we got some other guys to look at here. Also going to take a look at Malcolm Brogdon for the Boston Celtics. He's been playing pretty solid lately. With Horford out, he seems to be getting a pretty decent, competent minutes. Sorry, he's just been getting more minutes with, despite the fact that there's really no other guards out. His minutes have been increasing, and I like that for him. He's been playing really well, and his price actually came down today, and he should get a good opportunity in this game. C.J. McCollum for the Pelicans is in an interesting spot here. He's been playing pretty well lately, and his price has also kind of dropped quite a bit, just making him too cheap. Now, he had some really bad games a week or so ago, and that's partially why. But as long as he is shooting the ball, he's definitely going to be somebody that we're going to take a look at, especially in a plus match against Utah in a high-scoring game. Then we're going to look at Mikal Bridges here. Now, Mikal Bridges has had some really rough games, but again, he's just like a lot of the Suns. He should get more opportunity in this game with Booker being hurt and out, so I expect him to bounce back from some of these really low-scoring games that he's had, and he does have some nice upside in this matchup. He was very close to being a core play today as well. So was Chris Middleton. Now, he is probable today, but he has been playing pretty well in the few games that he's played this season, and I expect him to, if he does end up playing and is set to play a full complement of minutes, I do like him quite a bit on the slate. He would just miss the core play simply because of the lack of playing time so far this season. Larry Nance also looks like pretty interesting for the Pelicans. He's been really playing well. He isn't starting, but he's been coming off the bench and playing extremely well. And his price point is just too cheap for his production lately. Obviously, he's getting lots of steals and blocks, which definitely boosts your stats. But he is interesting on the slate, and so he's somebody to consider. And then, I have DeAndre Ayton at center. So that's what I have on DraftKings here. Let's go over to Fanduel. Now I have Chris Paul and Jordan Poole here on Fanduel. And Chris Paul is a lock with Booker out. He's going to have more upside in this matchup. And he definitely has big time potential in certain games. And he's back to playing a full complement of minutes, it looks like. And then I also have Jordan Poole, who's in a plus matchup here for Golden State against Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee's a tough defensive team, but he's got a plus matchup because he'll be starting for Wiggins at the very least, and he should have some good opportunity to 5x here. He's really good whenever he does start. It's when he doesn't start that you have to be concerned. So for other guys at FanDuel here, I also like James Harden quite a bit. His price point is still under 10,000 here on FanDuel, and so that gives him prime upside, especially with Maxey out. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to get close to a triple-double again in this matchup against against Sacramento. So I definitely like him a lot here. Then we'll look at Mikal Bridges, who just missed being a lock on the slate because of his price point, basically. He definitely has big-time upside, but he has some low games, and he doesn't always hit in the mid-30s, but he does have a lot of upside in this matchup because of Booker being out. Then Torrey Craig, also very interesting for Phoenix. His price point's a little bit too cheap for what he's been doing, and with Booker being out, he should get more opportunity as well. Then CJ McCollum, he's looking really solid lately for New Orleans, especially with some of the injuries there. Now but he had some rough games before the last 2 games, so that's partially why his price has come down some, and he's just become viable simply because of his price. Then we'll look at Giannis. His price point is under 12,000, which is pretty rare for him, and he definitely has upside. Obviously, his minutes can be stripped due to foul situations and stuff, but he gets plenty of peripheral stats, as you can see in the last couple games. However, he does need to get in the mid-20s in the actual points, but he's going to have plenty of opportunity to do that here against Golden State, who doesn't have anyone who's going to be able to mess with him too much. Then we'll look at Jaylen Brown here for the Celtics against the Lakers. He's going to have a lot of motivation to have a good game here. He had a kind of a rough game against the Clippers last time out, and so I look for him to bounce back here and have a big scoring game. He's been good more than he hasn't, though his price point is not super ideal, but he is playing well for this season. Draymond Green is also an interesting spot here. Now his upside is in the 50s, but his downside is in the mid-20s or even the high teens. So that is the concern with him, but his price point is pretty fair for his potential in this matchup. Then we'll look at Jason Tatum, who has been playing really well lately as well. Though his last 2 games have been a little bit, or last 3 games rather, have been a little bit rough. But he has 50 fantasy point upside, and he occasionally goes off for big games, especially when Brown has an off game. So he's somebody that's interesting on the slate, but like I said, the price point here on FanDuel is not quite as ideal as is on DraftKings. Then we'll look at Domantas Sabonis. It's really rough to try to find centers today here on FanDuel, and he's been having some really big games lately, and his floor is pretty high, so he's viable on the slate at a kind of a reduced price point, even though it is a kind of a tough matchup. And then Kevin Looney for the Golden State Warriors. He's interesting here on FanDuel because he gets some bonuses for his blocks and stuff, and he'll have some upside as a result of that. And with Wiggins out, he should technically get a couple more minutes than he normally would get. His minutes can be sporadic, though, so that is the danger, and he doesn't always get triple-doubles because sometimes he doesn't get the points. So we do have to keep that in mind. But if he was able to get a double-double in this game, he definitely will 5x. However, this is a pretty tough matchup against Milwaukee, so I think he's viable on the slate. There's just nobody at center and power forward that just jump off the page that are super locks by any stretch, and so that's why we have that. So let's go ahead and get into the game picks themselves. So I have Philadelphia over the Sacramento Kings. I have the Bucks over the Warriors. I have the Suns over the Rockets. I have the Pelicans over the Jazz, and I have the Celtics over the Lakers. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.